Where to begin? Well, I created the RedCliffs all the way back in about May 2023, about almost 2 years ago almost. How time has passed so much. You know, they started as kind of this thing where, like, I was listening to a lot of sort of band music, as I still do. I listen to a lot of band music. In fact, almost all the music I listen to is band music, but anyway, I wanted to sort of make band music, but I didn't have a band, so yeah, basically came up with these 4 characters to be the band. 2 of them are out of the picture now. Richard Williams Jr., he left over a year ago, and Raoul French just left a month or 2 ago. Well, his name is Raoul Hippolyte, but I keep calling him Raoul French for some reason, but anyway. But the 2 OG members are Javier de la Cruz and Frankie Riley. Frankie was born in Doha, small seaside village in Ireland. His father was a fisherman. I mean, he wasn't terrible, he was actually pretty good. He was actually a pretty good dad, unlike the sad excuses for men that some people unfortunately have for dads. But he was a fisherman, and his dad wanted Frank to be a fisherman, but no. My dad, he was a really good dad, really, but fishing really just wasn't for me, you know. I told him I wanted to play guitar, so when I moved to Birmingham when I was a young man, got a job hauling furniture. That paid the bills, but spent every moment that I was off with my guitar. Mike, do you have a cigarette on you? No, I do not. Well, that's a shame, because I'm all out. Anyway, what do you want me to say? Well, you see, I want to hear how you and Javier, the 2 remaining OG members of the Cliffs, met. Ah, yeah. Well, that was a very significant moment, really. Well, I met Javier on a bus. He had a guitar. I had a guitar. So we started talking. He just came from Mexico. Don't see too many Mexicans around here. His mom had married an Englishman, so they moved. Yeah. But that love of guitar, we shared right away. Yeah, man, we bonded fast. We didn't talk styles at first, but just swapped riffs and laughed a lot. Didn't matter where you were from, the music is a universal language. So basically, the RedCliffs guitar tone is very simple. So basically, Vox amps exclusively. The obsession with Vox amps started when we looked up what amps the Beatles used, and then Brian May helped make us basically solidified the choice, and as a very wait 1 second. You know, you get a very sort of very shiny, chimey, bell-like tonal quality, where I also put it, well, I mean, okay, I already have some slap echo, but I'll turn that off for 1 second. This is what the complete dry signal sounds like. Now, we have the echo. See, it's called slapback echo for your non-musicians, because you kind of, if you can imagine how it sounds, you take the echo and then you slap it. Yeah, you get it. Then there is the overdrive, which sounds exactly like a Vox. So, I mean, it's a Vox and a Vox, but a Vox going into a Vox. But I mean, it hasn't been used on any records yet, but it gives that sort of nice bluesy sort of breakup. Yeah. Blue-Eyed Girl is a song off the RedCliffs' latest album, RedCliffs 2. Now, I've got these stems pulled up right here. You can tell the working title was Darling Dear, which that was another song off the album, but that was the working title, just fun piece of trivia. Now, what I want to demonstrate here is the guitar noises. You see, if we had it completely dry, then it would sound like this. But the interesting part, which is kind of the RedCliffs' new signature thing now, is phasing. Phasing, if I were to put it, is kind of just like when, frequencies, when the bass and treble dramatically go down and the mid-range rapidly increases, then it does the opposite, and then it's overlapped with each other, creating a sort of swooshing motion. There's what it sounds like with phasing. I really appreciate it as it gives a kind, almost gives like an acoustic quality to it, honestly, and that's why I use it so much on the RedCliffs songs. Now, there's a lot more to the choice of Vox amps than just the sound. It has a lot to do with history and just aesthetics. Personally, I just think they look really cool, and other amps I think do not look very cool. Plus also just like its heritage, it is the first Great British amplifier. I mean, Marshall came along, Orange came along, Blackstar came along, everyone came along, but Vox was the OG. Yes. Now, the RedCliffs don't really use distortion that much. I mean, they had a brief distortion phase back in November, but the distortion, it was a bit, I mean, the RedCliffs, to put it bluntly, they're not Van Halen. They do not make super heavy rock music. They kind of make like rockabilly country with sort of a modern take on sort of 50s music. So yeah, distortion is not very compatible with that. So yeah, that's why the guitars are mostly clean or crunchy. But while we're at it, let's talk about distortion and my philosophy behind involving it if it needs. So yeah, don't mind the strobe light going on in the background. Pretend I'm getting arrested for what I'm doing anyway. So yes, basically, when I play with distortion, I play with a dime because the ridges on the coin produce harmonics that I just think sound better with distortion. Yeah. Yeah, the distortion pedal itself is the same as the crunch one, just a few things adjusted. Turned up the mids a bit, turned up the gain, obviously, and absolutely cranked the voice, and also had the same slapback echo on, but it's sort of Now, on the philosophy of distortion, as I mentioned, the RedCliffs, they do not use distortion too often, as well. I mean, this doesn't sound bad, but just like this sort of doesn't really work for the kind of stuff that they do. So, yeah, basically, but distortion can still be very useful for a sort of singing sound in this sort of crunchy atmosphere, or even just like get a clean if you want your solo to really sing, sort of. I was born in England, yeah, but when I was young, I moved to Jamaica. My dad was an electrical engineer. I was raised on reggae, really. The local boys introduced me to it, and, well, that's where I found my rhythm, really. You know, reggae isn't just music, it's a conversation. The percussion has a soul to it, you see. And when I moved back to England, I saw an advert that the RedCliffs needed a drummer, and so I auditioned, and they were like, well, you got the job. Now, to explain Winston White's drum technique without explaining all the technical stuff, as in my original take I explained a lot of technical stuff, basically the simple things is that he never uses a kick drum ever, so he never really, I mean, he does sometimes, but he rarely, he still has a kick drum in his kit, but that's mostly just an aesthetic choice. Yeah, he also uses a ride cymbal instead of a traditional crash cymbal because crash is too loud, while ride is a lot more subdued. So yes, he shuffles a lot. He hasn't shuffled very much recently, but he's going to shuffle a lot in the next few, and he also straight sometimes. So yes, basically a demonstration. Oh yes, before I do that, a lot of side stick, because the direct hit on the snare is too loud. A lot of his technique comes from trying to be as quiet as he can. So yes, without further ado, this is a rough demonstration of his drum technique. First, straight. And now, shuffled. I know I just said I wasn't going to crash the crash, but whatever, that was just an exception, but yeah, in short, that's basically just his drum technique, basically, the grooves that he uses. Now, I won't exactly get into my early childhood and stuff, because, well, I really don't like talking about it, really, but the point is, when I was a young man, I joined the Navy, and when I was there, I played upright bass in the band, and after getting out of the Navy, I got a job at an automotive plant, and I didn't really like the automotive plant too much. So one night at the pub, some French guy with a bass sits next to me. We drink, we talk about all over the instrument, and he was like, I'm quitting my band, but I want someone to take my place. Can you do it? And I was like, yeah, sure. So I shook the hand of Raoul Haperite, and after a few jam sessions, I was now the RedCliffs' new bassist. So, basically, Niall Simeon's approach to playing bass is, well, he doesn't just play root. I mean, assuming if we're playing just simple 1145, how Raoul French, or how his real name, Raoul Hippolyte, would play it was be like kind of just like playing just like root notes. But that is quite boring, honestly, in the grand scheme of things. So when Niall joined on the band, he incorporated two things: triads and chromaticism. Now, chromaticism is basically, instead of following a scale like the major scale, you use every note you can use. So that means but you might be thinking, if you don't follow a scale or any kind of pattern whatsoever, won't it sound out of tune and wonky? And yes, but in order to not sound like that, you should use it sort of with purpose. Sort of, first you play the root, then you sort of noodle around, such as like, then you land, so then it sounds really out of tune, and then it's like, oh, where are you going? And then when the next chord happens, you land on the root again, and then you still repeat. So, for example, one way that I would have played sort of 1145 was something like that. You might think that it's out of tune if you ain't following a scale, but it's all about mindset. Hit the root, slide through, chromatic lick that dances with the melody, and then back on the root. That tension and release, that's magic, isn't it not? Now, another approach is triads, which you mostly learn from Winston White's reggae sort of inspiration, as they use a lot of triads in reggae. But so basically, there's the major triad, root, major, third, fifth. There's the minor triad, root, minor, third, fifth. And there's the seventh triad, root, minor, third, fifth, seventh. So that means kind of, sort of, basically, he can kind of, it's very functional, but it's much more interesting than just playing the root. So, for example, if the chord progression was 1, 6, 4, 5, that means it'd probably go sort of like going back to sort of the reggae sort of thing. It's kind of like if like you imagine sort of like you're sitting on a tropical beach with a bam 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 and a very laid back. You kind of go. That was just some random ass noodling, but you get the idea. And for transitioning into new sections of the song, he does this. He uses a power chord and arpeggiates it, or plays one note at a time. When it comes to the RedCliffs albums, they've made 4 at this point. Modern Life is Still Rubbish back in March of last year, and that was kind of like an indie sort of alternative thing, which in hindsight that's nowhere near how they ended up sounding like, so that was kind of just like a weird spot in their career. There was Do the Scrambled Egg in the Morning Sun. They were heading somewhat in the direction they would go, but they were still finding their groove, and once again, sounds nothing like how they sound now. There was RedCliffs 1, which was sort of when they tried to be a rock metal band thing. And basically, that was alright, but they ended up not becoming a rock or metal band. Well, I mean, they're a rock band to an extent, but they're not a metal band. And then there was RedCliffs 2, which, I mean, I typically like to say that when what I'm doing is when the RedCliffs are at their best, but I genuinely think that the RedCliffs have had a peak of success in a while, given that RedCliffs 2 is just exactly, I think it's what they sound like, really, and yeah, and it just like, I think it's just like the album that I think just sounds the best and has the best lyrics and the best instrumentals. In reflection of all this, I think the RedCliffs are an incredibly positive impact on my life, given that, well, kind of gave me a purpose to sort of strive for something, try to sort of create, sort of to have goals. You know, I find that through music I was able to provide a purpose to this world and really find sort of my footing as sort of who I am. Yeah, I mean, I've had many highs, ups and lows and stuff, but this band is basically has done wonders for my life, my self-esteem, my love life, my almost everything, really.